Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about sounds our bodies make. So, we all have bodies, and our bodies can make sounds. Obviously, we can talk, and I'm not going to talk about talking in this lesson. There are sounds that our bodies make involuntarily. That means we don't decide, it's just a sound our body makes. And there are sounds that we make voluntarily, and I'll talk about both of those types of sounds in this lesson. Some of these sounds I will make. Some of these sounds I will not make while we're doing the lesson. So stay tuned for that. If it's something simple like snap your fingers, I will make that sound. But if it's one of the other ones, I think I will avoid that. So we all have bodies. Those bodies make sounds sometimes. And in this English lesson, we'll talk about over 25 of them. I did want to mention that this lesson does also have a study pack. If you look in the description below, there's a link. I've been experimenting with making study packs. If that is something that's interesting to you, why don't you take a look at it? So one of the first sounds you can decide to make is you can snap your fingers. I do it by putting these two fingers together and going and pushing really hard and then going like that. The sound is actually from when this finger, it's not working very well. There we go. When this finger hits here, I think that's where the sound comes from. We sometimes snap our fingers to get someone's attention. It's considered rude, though, in a restaurant to snap your fingers if you want the server or waitress or waiter to come over. But sometimes in the classroom, I'll snap my fingers at students. Sometimes if they're misbehaving, I'll be like, hey, stop that. So it's a way... I'm doing it too much probably. It's a way to get someone's attention. And it's a sound our bodies make that we decide to make. You might also tap or drum your fingers. I'm not sure how I'm going to demonstrate this one. Have you ever been in a meeting and someone is doing that on the table? Sometimes when people are impatient, when they're waiting. Sometimes if they're at the counter at the doctor's office talking to the receptionist, they might drum their fingers because they're a little bit impatient. So we would say tap your fingers or drum your fingers. That's the action you would do. This one I'm very familiar with. This is an involuntary sound. Now, if you don't know the difference between a sound that is voluntary or involuntary, an involuntary sound happens and you can't control it. Sometimes I'm really, really hungry and you will hear my stomach growling or you will hear my stomach rumbling. You can use either word. Sometimes when I'm at market, it's really busy and we don't have time to eat. And then all of a sudden my stomach will start to growl. So this is a sound our bodies make when we're really, really hungry. It's definitely a sound our bodies make when we need food. So sometimes your stomach will growl. It's not nice when you're in a meeting and your stomach is growling. Usually then I just kind of slip out and go have a little snack. But if you're hungry, your stomach might growl or your stomach might rumble. So a gasp is like a quick intake of air when you're surprised about something. If someone told you bad news, you might go, so you can hear I'm quickly taking air in. And I have a bit of a surprised look on my face. We sometimes cover our mouth when we gasp, like, so generally it's a sound we make when we're surprised about something. I don't gasp very often. Not a lot surprises me anymore. But every once in a while I might go, that's interesting, or no way. So it's a really quick intake of breath. It's hard to demonstrate, but I think you kind of heard the sound. So we do have to cover these two, burp or belch. I'm not going to demonstrate either of these. When you burp, it's because you have gas in your stomach. Usually, I'm trying to think. The best example is if you drink carbonated soda or pop, we call it in Canada, and you have a lot of gas in your stomach, you might burp. A burp is when you release gas from your stomach through your mouth. And a belch is just a really long, loud burp. And you sometimes burp after eating. Sometimes you'll eat food and you'll burp when you're done eating. But yes, it's releasing gas from your stomach through your mouth. I'm not going to demonstrate. I'm definitely not going to demonstrate this one. I described this in a previous lesson as when air or gas comes out the other end. I described it as the other end. And I put this in the thumbnail of this video as well. First of all, what can I say about farting? Kids think farts are hilarious. Kids think farts are funny. Farts smell. They are not pleasant. And the phrases, like in our house, if I walk into a room and it has a funny smell, I might say, "Who farted?" But at work or at school, it's not polite to fart. Or if you think someone farted, it's not polite to ask who did it. Generally, farts in public are not good things. Enough about farting. Let's go to the next slide. To clap your hands. So when you clap your hands, generally this is done after you watch a performance, and it's called applause. So often when I go and watch a show, not a movie, but if I go and watch a play, when the play is done, there is applause. People clap their hands. I'm doing it quite quietly, but generally that's what it's for. You can also use it to get attention. Again, as a parent, I might say to one of my kids, "Hey, listen to me." So I might make that sound to indicate I want them to listen. But mostly when you clap your hands, it's done as a show of appreciation for a job well done. Crack your knuckles. So I can't do this one. My knuckles don't crack. I'll make the sound effect with my mouth. Some people can go like this. That was my mouth making the sound. And they can make their knuckles crack. They can make these little popping sounds when they do that. And they might do it like this as well. They might just go like that. And you might hear a crack or a pop. I've never been able to do it. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But definitely when you do that, we would say that you are cracking your knuckles. It's not a pleasant sound. I don't really enjoy that sound at all. Hiccup. So this is another involuntary sound. I can pretend to have hiccups, but it's when somehow, I think it's called your diaphragm. Above your stomach, there's the muscle that helps you breathe, not your lungs. And I think it's that muscle moves involuntarily every minute or every 30 seconds. And you go like that. Hopefully pretending to have the hiccups doesn't actually cause the hiccups. The most annoying thing about hiccups is you can't stop. You just have to wait for them to go away. Some people will drink water to try and get rid of hiccups. Some people will try to swallow 3 times to get rid of hiccups. But generally they are very annoying and not a fun thing to have. And that's how you describe it. You say, "Oh, I have the hiccups." Hopefully I don't. Whistle. So I can't sing on tune, but I can whistle pretty good. So whistling is when you basically do what this guy's doing. So let me see here. I'm trying to not whistle an actual song because I don't want to get a copyright strike on the video. But whistling is when you produce sound with your lips and tongue. And then some people can do it where they can, I don't know how to do it, but they can use their fingers to whistle as well. I can't do that, but I can whistle like that. I don't know if I need to talk about this anymore, but people sometimes like to whistle while they're doing stuff. Sometimes when I'm by myself in my classroom, I might whistle while I'm working. That's an actual phrase, or is it a song lyric? Whistle while you work. But whistling, if you don't have music to listen to, you might whistle. You might whistle a song that you know. Sneeze. So this is involuntary as well as coughing. Sneezing, we used to sneeze like this, like achoo, but we've been told now to sneeze into our elbow. The English word is achoo. I've said that. That's the sound. That's how we describe the sound when you sneeze. But you sneeze when maybe you're sick and you have a stuffed up nose, or maybe you've got something in your nose. Maybe you breathed in a lot of dust and you're like, achoo, achoo. And then it's like a quick, we would say you expel air through your nose when you sneeze. Sometimes people will have a sneezing fit. That's when you sneeze a whole bunch of times in a row. That's not very fun, especially if you're at work or sitting in a class. And then a cough, like, sorry, we're supposed to cough like that now. That's when you expel air from your lungs quickly through your mouth and through your throat, usually because you are sick. Maybe you have a cold or you have congestion, which means your lungs have lots of fluid in them, and then you cough to get it out. Pretty common terms, sneeze and cough. So we usually cover our mouth when we yawn, and that is the, I'm not actually bored, by the way. That is the sound we make. So it's like, so you can see my mouth opens really wide. You yawn when you're tired, but sometimes people yawn when they're a little bit bored as well. Okay, so if it's late in the day, I might, it's getting a little bit contagious now. I might yawn a little bit because I'm tired. If I'm sitting listening to someone, maybe you're yawning right now because you're bored with this lesson. But that is a yawn. When you yawn when you're tired, you don't decide to yawn. It's just like, that might have been a real one. Okay, back to the lesson. I need to get to some more exciting slides. Sigh. So we had this a little earlier in the questions. A sigh is an expression of boredom or slight annoyance, or that you don't agree with someone. And it sounds like this. It's like if my son asked, can I borrow the van? And I said, sure, but please buy some gas. He might be like making a big sigh because he doesn't like it that I told him he had to put some gas in the van. But definitely when you sigh, it is an expression that you don't agree with someone, or you don't like what they said, or you're not happy about what's happening. So when you hum, this is kind of hard to describe. Your lips are together. So it's different than whistling. Some people will hum a song like I almost hummed a real song there. What song was that? Yankee Doodle Dandy? That would be a song that Brent would hum, not me. I don't know if that was the right song, but I actually do some humming before I do these live lessons to get my voice ready. So you can hear, it's not singing, it's not whistling, it's just making sounds with your throat and your vocal cords. So you have two muscles that help you speak. I think that's what humming is. And we do it when we want to, maybe we're listening to a song and we want to hum along. Maybe we're just walking and we just want to hum a tune because we're happy that day. But humming, kind of a cool thing to do. So this is an interesting one. So usually only kids do this, and we don't use this regularly, but I wanted to explain it. You can make your tongue click or pop. So I shouldn't say adults don't do this. I think my grandma used to do this if I was being bad. She would say, don't do that. So my tongue goes to the roof of my mouth, and then I pull it down quickly. It's probably similar to snapping. It's like when the tongue hits the bottom. But we call this clicking your tongue or popping your tongue. And sorry for the kind of strange looking picture. I couldn't find a really good picture of this one, but I'm trying to think of when I use that sound. You sometimes use this when you're like talking to a baby or maybe a dog, like, hey, maybe. Anyways, not used regularly, but something that you can do. Pop your mouth. So this is a kind of a weird one. You can do this with your finger. Not very good at it, but you can just do it with your lips. We don't use this sound for anything. It's just a sound you can make. Kids think it's hilarious to make a popping sound with their finger. It's kind of fun to make that sound. Makes my microphone levels go really high when I do that. But you can pop your mouth. That's what we would call it. A raspberry. So there's no other good way to demonstrate this without this being bad for my mic, but you can do it with your lips or with your tongue. Both of these are called a raspberry or a raspberry sound. Again, these are sounds that adults don't often make. Let me go back on that though. Adults don't often do this. Not very common. Adults do this though. They do it when they're tired. Like if I'm really tired at night, I might say to Jen, I am tired. So I blow air through my lips. It makes my lips flap and it makes kind of a funny sound. So I don't know if in your part of the world this is used for other things. Kids very often will be like, they'll do that to each other to bug each other and stuff like that. But definitely a sound that you can make if you're interested in making sounds like that. Tap your feet. This is another thing people sometimes do involuntarily without thinking. Sometimes people do this because they're waiting somewhere and they're impatient. So they'll tap their foot. That's not my actual foot. I'm just pretending, but you will tap your feet when you're waiting for something. I don't often do this. I know a few people who tap their feet just whenever they're sitting because they don't like sitting still. In English, when you sit still, it means you don't move, and they like to tap their feet. And some people do it without making a sound, and some people will like, I know that I don't want to point this person out, but there's someone I know in my life who taps their feet quite regularly, and it can be a little bit distracting. Snore. So yes, I snore. When you snore, you make a sound with your mouth and nose while you're sleeping, like that's like the weird snoring sound effect. It's because things are flapping in your mouth and the back of your nose when you breathe in. And so you make a noise. It's not very nice. Snoring is not nice, especially if you have a partner and that partner is sleeping in the same room or bed as you and they can't sleep because you are snoring. Not a very nice thing to do. But you can't decide not to. By the way, like I said, I snore when I'm sleeping on my back. So if I sleep on my side, I don't snore or I snore less. Pop or crack. So we talked about cracking your knuckles, right? We talked about you can make popping sounds. Some people can like turn their head and it will pop. Some people can kind of do this and make kind of a funny pop or crack. As you get older, this is more common. When I bend down, my one knee will pop or crack. When I stand back up, it just kind of goes click. I don't think that's a good thing, but it's one of the sounds that our bodies make. Wheeze. So when you wheeze, it's like, I'm going to try and reproduce it. Like, so when I breathe, you can't really hear me. If I breathe quickly, you can hear me. If you wheeze, it means you're having trouble breathing. So sometimes people who have smoked their whole life, when they get older, their lungs don't work very good, what we use to breathe, and they'll end up wheezing. Some people have what's called a puffer. So this is something that, so it puts some medicine, or I'm not sure what to call it, into your lungs and throat so that you can breathe easier. But you wheeze when you are having difficulty breathing, and that's the sound it is. Like, generally people who are sick will wheeze. Like if you have a cold, you might wheeze. So tisk, I don't actually say tisk. Like I don't go tisk, 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 but I do make this sound. So it's similar to, but much softer. So I might walk into my classroom and there might be garbage all over the floor, and I might go, that's annoying. So I'm putting my tongue at the front of my mouth and then pulling it back. That's what my tongue is doing. It's on the roof of my mouth. And it's used to show dissatisfaction. Like, we often shake our head when we make that sound. Like, oh, did you hear the price of milk is going up $1? That's annoying. So we kind of make like a disappointed look on our face, and we shake our head and we're like, what can we do? So tisk. I don't think anyone actually says tisk. I think it's much more common for people to make that sound. It's not a very nice sound, is it? Sometimes there's like saliva is the liquid in your mouth, or phlegm is the stuff when you're sick. Like you just have something in your throat, and in order to talk, you need to clear your throat. The word we use is ahem, because that's the closest to the sound, but most people it would sound like this. So you're I'm trying to think, are you expelling air? You're just doing something so that you can talk. I'm going to do a little example here. Sometimes I'm talking and then I have to clear my throat. That I was just pretending. But you've probably heard that before, where someone's talking and they'll do that. By the way, it is polite to put your hand, usually like this, and if you're using a microphone, to do it far away. But sometimes you need to clear your throat. A groan. So a groan is a loud sigh. It's an expression of dissatisfaction. You're not happy about something. If Jen said to me, let me see. Oh, we're out of, let's see. I'm trying to think of something that I would find annoying. If Jen said to me, oh, let's say there were cookies in the kitchen, and then after my live stream, I went to have a cookie and Jen said, the kids ate them all. I'd be like, ah. So a groan is an expression, like it's not like, which is a sigh, a soft expression. It's like, ah. And we call that a groan. It's not a grunt. So a grunt is when you lift something heavy, like, mm. So let's say these glasses were heavy. This is a bad example. I might grunt when I'm lifting them. But a groan is like, ah. You make this sound that expresses your dissatisfaction. And we call it a groan. I doubt you could hear that. Let's try that again. I don't know if this grosses you out. Like maybe you don't like this. I don't know, maybe you can hear that. But a gulp is the sound that is made when you swallow. So when you drink water, or when you eat food or drink something else, when it goes from your mouth down to your stomach, you swallow it and you hear a gulp. Ooh. That was a fake one, by the way. But that is what we call it. So hopefully you don't regularly hear me gulp, do you? Maybe you do. I don't know. It's kind of a strange sound. Anyways, a gulp is the sound that is made when you swallow something.